Just a little bit of recap in our journey towards incorporation. When we met with our 4 local delegation members for Sarasota County, 2 of the 4 said to us, if we're going to get behind this, we really need to know the residents of unincorporated Siesta. This is what they want. And we encourage you to do an unofficial straw vote. And we're pretty confident on that. So, okay, all right, we'll do that. Never having done a straw vote before, I really didn't know what was involved. It cost us almost $30,000 to do it. So thank you to our donors for helping us, get through that process. But we first of all conducted it exactly per the Florida statutes, exactly like an official election. We thought that was important for authenticity. And so the ballots were created up in Tallahassee. They were sent out in an envelope. And how many of y'all got your ballots? Pretty good amount. Okay, that's great. They were sent out with a pre-addressed, pre-stamped envelope to return your ballot to a law firm in Lakewood Ranch so they could tally the ballots. We also, like an official election, had to have a deadline. The most recent election where Commissioner Mark Smith was elected was November 8th. Good day in history, right, Mark? So we had a deadline of December 30th. But we ran into a bunch of hurdles we didn't anticipate. I kind of call it the perfect storm. A couple of things. Number one, we were mail-in only. We didn't have the advantage of people going to a polling and, voting in person. Number two, I was under the impression that everybody had returned to Florida from their northern homes in December. Boy, was I wrong. And there were a whole bunch of people that went to visit their kids or their grandkids or whatever during Christmas and weren't here and didn't get their ballots. And so there was quite a few people that didn't get their ballots. We were competing with the U.S. Postal Service, so to speak. They were our carrier during Christmas holidays, which is, of course, the slowest time of the year to get mail to and from. And we also found out on the voter roll, there's a tremendous population here on Siesta Key that live in condominium complexes. And so if you go to the voter roll, you may see that, John Doe lives at 3759 Midnight Pass Road, but the voter roll may not say Unit 504. In some cases it does, some cases it doesn't. And then also our ballot, when it was mailed out, a lot of times when it goes to these condos, it kind of sort of looks like junk mail and goes into a general mailbox. And so we were flooded with phone calls of, I didn't get my ballot. And it was about a 4-week process. What we did when we got these phone calls from people that didn't get their ballots, we went to the voters registration website. Ron Turner, our supervisor of elections, if we had your correct spelling of your name and your date of birth, we could confirm that you were a registered voter. And if that was the case, we asked that another ballot be sent to them at the address that they were requesting. And we heard everything from I'm visiting my grandkids from Indiana to I'm undergoing chemo up in Boston. I'm in a hotel. People send it to the hotel. I mean, you name it. The other thing we heard a lot of, and my wife did most of this, but she was the one that manned the phones, is I'm sorry, you're not a registered voter. You're not allowed to vote. We have a tremendous number of people that own property here that are not registered to vote in Sarasota County and 3 precincts in unincorporated Sarasota. And those are some pretty passionate people. They were, well, wait a minute, I own property. What do you mean I can't vote? Well, you're not, where did you vote for president of the United States? Well, you're in my home state of Indiana. Well, that's where you're registered to vote. So we had all the odds stacked against us. And I'm pleased to report we had a absolute record turnout of 41.4% turnout.
Yeah, that's really good. That is marvelous. Well,
A
that's
lot of
great.
passion over this issue, so we say thank you to everybody. By way of comparison, the election last March of 22, which there were two significant issues on the ballot.
Right.
One was the single member district issue, if you all recall that. And the second issue was the re-upping of the 1% add-on sales tax for the Sarasota County schools that has to be re-upped every 4 years. That election only had a 28% turnout. So we trumped it big time. Sorry for the pun, Trump, but 41%, 41.4% turnout. What were the yeses and what were the nos?
Yes, Tim. Bravo. Catherine, tell people what it says.
For those of you on our Zoom call, it says, thank you. 87% said yes. Wow. I'm hearing them, I know, up there in the universe. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's
So
awesome.
his, thank you. Another challenge we had, and I just would love to hear the feedback from this group. We've held some events of our Third Thirsty Thursdays and our donor appreciation and what have you. And we, not being professionals, we're all volunteers on the board and our ambassadors are all volunteers, is we had some communication, challenges. And what we heard from our supporters is, your website's great, your email blasts are great, your texts are great, but just put damn signs up. And so that's what we did. And I assume most of you have seen our big 4 foot by 4 foot signs that
Yes.
say vote yes, return your straw ballot. Well, tomorrow I have 12 of these, and right on the bottom of it is going to go to thank you,
87%.
87% yes.
Yes. Excellent.
So what's the next steps? Well, our lobbyists, we have 2 lobbying firms and 3 lobbyists, have told us that we exceeded expectations on all accounts in both voter turnout and, the percentage yes versus percentage no. Matter of fact, they told us that they're not 100% officially sure, but they've never seen a race, a political race, or a ballot question with such a high degree of yeses. We do have a local delegation meeting next Thursday, January 12th. It's at the Sarasota County Administration Building at 1:30. We would encourage you to show up and show your support. And what we mean by that is if you have a Save Siesta Key white or blue shirt, please wear it. Our local delegation has politely asked, you don't need to fill out a speaker card. We don't want to be here for 4 hours. We already know how we're going to vote. So just to have a show of support there would be good. We're very optimistic that we're going to get the majority we need to take this to Tallahassee. The next big challenge will be getting through Tallahassee. And plain and simple, the biggest challenge that we have is the labeling of an extra added layer of government. We have a supermajority of conservative Republicans in the House. We have a supermajority of Republicans in the Senate, and we have a Republican governor. And just in normal terms, they don't like added layers of government. That's not a Republican theory or a conservative theory. Our job's going to be to convince them that this is an extreme exception. Our argument is that there are 411 other cities, towns, and villages in the state of Florida. If you just look here in Sarasota County alone, you've got City of Sarasota, Town of Longboat Key, City of Venice, City of Northport. It's not like we're asking to be special. We just want to self-govern like all the other people do. So that'll be our next challenge, assuming we get to Tallahassee. So the race isn't run or won yet, but we like the momentum we've got. So I just want to say thank you to everybody and be happy to answer any questions. Yes, ma'am.
When is Tallahassee? When is?
So the session has officially started. It started this week, and it will likely go for 60 days. And it'll be heard near the end of the session, we're told. You can only imagine there are thousands of bills that get brought up at every session. So this isn't going to be on the radar screen in a big way, but it will get addressed, assuming we get to Tallahassee. The governor always has the ability to call the legislature back and extend session, which he did this past year twice. So it could even go into June, July, or August. I can't sit here and predict that.
Once you're in Tallahassee and you have that meeting, vote, whatever you want to call it, does that mean that then it's resolved one way or the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If we
If you
get out
get-
of the local delegation next
And you can't
Thursday,
get a vote.
get to Tallahassee, it will be voted on by the House and Senate in the 2023 legislative session. I know there was another question back here.
Yeah, I forget which one of the four that you need to vote yes, but the one at the church last month said that if you've got 20% in and 90% of it was yes, he's probably not going to say yes. But maybe if you got 70% in, and it was only 60%, maybe he'd consider it. Do you know what his feelings may be on 80% of 41?
We've been talking to him, and I don't have a definite answer yet. The 70% voter turnout is like never happened in history. So that was an unrealistic request. We're sitting somewhere in the middle, and I think that it will sit favorably with him. But I can't promise that.
By the way, I think somebody's got to tell him that it is so unrealistic to have 70% or even close to that. 41% is excellent.
Well, that's why I took you through all the disadvantages and then told you what happened in an official election last March, and we exceeded that tremendously. That's pretty persuasive, I think.
I do too.
Yes, sir.
That's really skeptical of this whole incorporation idea because of the added layer of government. I know I personally got 3 colored postcards, nice promotional, professionally done postcards. I got, I don't know, many emails. I got texts. I got phone calls. I can't believe there's anybody who didn't know that this election was going on. Yet 60% of the people chose not to respond to it. I would suggest that somebody not sending it back is a no vote. And for you to say 41% is a victory lap. We had 68% of the CST precincts voted in our last November election. So our turnout on Siesta Key is traditionally pretty good. So I think you're taking a victory lap for a loss.
Okay, we appreciate your position. I totally disagree.
I'm sure you do.
Yep.
Blair?
This wasn't an election, was it? This was just the
Yeah.
opportunity to have an election.
This was an unofficial straw poll. It was not an
Clarify
election.
what it is. It's just an opportunity to vote.
That's right. All it was an indicator.
You have someone over here, Tim, that's.
Yes, ma'am.
So are you making the same case to the delegation when you present these 41% and 73% numbers? Because I know how awful the postal system has been. I am now going from Siesta Key to Michigan and come back and it took 8 weeks. So I'm hoping that the delegation understands the obstacles that this group has overcome to even get to this point, to allow us to vote. I think that's the key thing too, is we are not voting on incorporation, we are voting on the.
Just the
right to
opportunity.
vote on self-determination.
You're exactly correct.
So repeat
I'm
the
sorry, Dean.
repeat the question for the people on Zoom.
Well, I think she's asking, are we making the same points with the local delegation that I made to you tonight? And the answer is an absolute yes. We met for 4.5 hours last Saturday to solidify our one-page bullet points. We've met with our lobbyists on a couple of occasions, and they've met with all 4 local delegation members this week. And they're professionals at this, and they're making those very points. And, you know, not only was it all the points I made, but it's the point you made. We're not asking them to support incorporation. We're just asking to be given the right to allow us to vote on our own destiny and self-rule or not. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you for presenting this as somebody that supports it, and also think that many of the other people support it also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As Tim is someone who's worked on or followed referendum type initiatives in multiple states, I think what you've achieved is just incredibly unusual. So congratulations on that. Assuming the legislature and the governor go along with it, assuming the delegation recommends it and the legislature and the governor goes along with it, remind me please when the actual election would occur.
Okay. The bill that we finalized this afternoon says that if we're approved, the vote on incorporation would be at the November 2024 election. Same election that we're going to elect a new president of the United States.
High turnout.
High turnout. And that was actually a condition of even considering support that Mike Grant put on it. He said, I'm not going to settle for a special election because the voter turnouts just aren't strong. He said, if I'm even going to consider supporting this, I want it at a general election. And so even though we ran the risk of our momentum going stale on us, because that's almost, what is that, 21 months from now?
Right.
We still thought it was the right thing to do to get his support.
Agreed.
Thank you. We got one more question, then we have to close it out.
Yes, ma'am. We had to conduct it exactly like an official election to give them an indication of what would this really look like if it were put to a vote. Gene, we close it out?
One more.
One
Catherine?
more?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if it came to a real election, you were a property owner, but a non-resident, you had no vote.
That's correct. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Okay, guys, I'm going to do a real quick update here. My favorite topic, I know you guys get a little tired of me talking about the canal and the Siesta Key waters, just a little, but I wanted to give you just a quick, what we're trying to do is create new real estate, but that's going to be in water for the sea life. And then we're going to increase the sea life density and diversity. We've seen tarpon in our canal. That's really unusual. And we're getting some shrimp back now. And I wanted to show you just a little bit. We're looking at 2 actions we're going to be doing. We've got grant actions. Sarasota County's invited us back again to bid for another grant. So we will be going after that. We haven't worked on what it is yet. And we also have the Sarasota Bay Estuary program that we've been working with. And they've also come back to us and let us know what the schedule is to bid. So we're looking now at what we will do as a proposal. And then the next steps when we do that is to let them know we will bid. The intent is to bid or for the grant. And then what we'll do is define our projects so everybody will know what those are going to be for 2023. I thank you all for the support. Just to give you an idea, we're now up to about 269 mini reefs in the Siesta Key waters. And we started about 34, 2.5 years ago. So this is what our individual dock owners have done. So thank you very much for that help.
There's a lot of different moving parts, isn't there, around here? And they're all kind of exciting. So thank you, Jean. And we have one more thing, and Bob's going to go over just one last item that I think you'll be interested
Okay, so some brief updates. In December, SKA filed a letter with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection objecting to the nourishment plan for Turtle Beach. It was well received. I talked to the head of it there, Greg Garris. He said, "Oh, SKA, that's you guys again, right?" From our experience with Big Pass. He did tell me that they're processing it, and their schedule is to issue a decision, a draft decision, on February the 27th. Now, that's a long time. It's about 2 months, but it's kind of typical. And what happens after that is people have 2 weeks to ask for an appeal, and then you can ask for an extension for 30 days. And I'm afraid what that would occur then is it would be unlikely that the county could do the nourishment in March and April. So I don't know if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. If you're in favor of trucks, you probably think that's a bad thing. But there's a lot to go. We got a late start, and but I think you'd be happy with the representation that SKA gave to the people who live on South Midnight Pass. And we'll see what happens. But we'll take some actions, and I'd rather not say what we're going to do right now, but something will happen on the 27th of February. Let's see what else is going on. Lourdes's case on the Village Hotel goes for basically a hearing, if not a summary judgment, next week in front of the circuit judge. Interesting to see what happens there. The judge for the Asgary Hotel decided to rehear the kill shot that says it's a violation of the comprehensive plan. And that hearing hasn't been scheduled yet, but it'll come up shortly. None of this is going to wait for a year to be decided. On the Benderson traffic light at Avenue B and C, there's a hearing on the 17th of this month in Tampa. I think it's in State Court of Appeals, on an appeal of their decision that people on the key didn't have standing to challenge that traffic light. And everybody I've talked to says that's a crazy decision. The appeals court is going to turn that over, and they're going to remand it back to the FDOT, who will have to go through the DOA to get a full hearing on it. So that may be a huge stumbling block. And the last thing I guess I wanted to remind you of is that on January the 30th, there's going to be a BCC hearing on whether to grant a special exception for Gilligan's to stay open with live music until 2 a.m. every night. So if you think that's a good idea or a bad idea, show up or write your commissioner, because I'm sure Mark would love to hear from you. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say, and a lot of activity going on, some of it behind the scene. Yes.
General question. Mentioned it as well. Is there a noise abatement from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. key-wide?
Construction has to
Speaking.
be in, construction has to be in daylight hours. And there is a 10 p.m. noise ordinance that is for commercial. And it doesn't need a permit. It's till 10 p.m. And then the decibel level changes. And, I think there's a restriction that has to be in an enclosed building, kind of like the Beach Club eventually moved itself to. So Gilligan's is not proposing to do it inside of an enclosed building. And the owners of that property or the leasers of it have been previously denied 5 times. A special permit, and that permit goes with the property, so it doesn't matter who owns it or leases it, it applies to the property. Any other questions? Yeah,
Is the position of the SKA that they're against the renourishment entirely?
no, just how it's going to be done.
Thing or has to be done.
It needs to
They
be
want to get
done.
off their books by June. Why don't they just put the money in escrow and then we can schedule most convenient time?
It's a strange set of circumstances. 75% of the funding comes from FEMA for the 2016 hurricane. The county was hoping to hold that in escrow, as you suggest, until 2026 and use it to help pay for the once a decade anticipated renourishment. FEMA told them last year that they couldn't keep the money that long. They had to use it or lose it this year. And so the county, and then FEMA did an environmental impact assessment and looked only at trucking the sand in. They told them it was either don't do anything and lose the money or truck it in. And so that environmental assessment was published 2 years ago with, I might say, little fanfare. Did anybody hear about it? No, me neither. It was published for a little while on the county website and for a little while on the FEMA website. So when we found out about it, it was well after the fact. And unfortunately, the county was told by FEMA, you have to do it by trucking and you have to do it now. And we said, you didn't look at any alternatives like bringing it in by barge or something like that, where you wouldn't be putting traffic on the county roads. And they said no. So I don't know what'll happen if FDEP says no. Maybe that'll help the county in getting an extension so they can wait another year or so. I would think so. But FEMA's been pretty adamant about not allowing them to spend any money after May. So, and it's a nice deal. It would be no charge to any of the residents there, except for having to deal with 100 trucks a day for 2 months coming down South Midnight Pass.
You know, there's nothing else going on.
Over the bridge.
No, and over the bridge. And then they'll be in the left lane and the trucks in the right lane will be doing the resurfacing. Yeah,
Has the county or anyone else engaged the strong Florida congressional delegation to talk to the Department of Homeland Security, which is unfortunately be the parent of this.
yeah. I think they've done a lot of talking to FEMA and
No, I'm talking to the people that hold the purse strings, FEMA, talking to FEMA.
I don't know.
Yes.
The county pushed pretty hard on this. I don't doubt they did. I think FEMA was just in transient. And, you know, they've got this environmental assessment that says it's either do this or do nothing. And that's sort of where they're got their heels dug in.
But we've since had a hurricane.
Thank you.
It's been a kind of a new plate, I think, too.
Yeah, actually, there's surprisingly little damage that was additional damage done.
It's point of reference for the state.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if I was a trucking contractor that I didn't want to get myself involved in that, where you had scheduled penalties or I'm not sure they can do it for the $5 million they think they're gonna get bids for it. But that's,
Drawbridge that opens up periodically.
yeah, no, all. You're speaking to the choir. I agree with you. And actually, when I talked to FDEP, they were pretty sensitive to it. All right. Thank you.
Great. We haven't said.
More than anything, I guess you can
Wait,
tell
it's still-
that despite a holiday, we've still been burning up the phone and the internet. And even on our vacation to SeaWorld for a couple of days, we were on the DEP call. So I just want you to know, when we say SKA is working for you all the time, it's really true. And we need you. And we are looking always for good new people to help us with this work. And we hope that you'll think about it. Those of you that are interested, contact us. And those of you that want to gather more members, just tell them, hey, if you want to think about it, this $35 you pay gets you more than any other thing you could buy that with on this key. So please invite your friends.
You said a date, is there going to be an annual meeting in March?
We are scheduling an annual meeting, and it's going to be on March 25th, Saturday morning.
It'll be a breakfast.
We haven't publicized it because we're still getting all
We're
of our
still
pieces
working things
together.
out.
But we are working things out. We have it arranged with the church for the space here. It will be a little different because they no longer have the same people that cater. And you just, I don't know, you might have to bring your own brown bag. I don't know. We will see. Okay. All right. And I guess that's about it for now. We're good. Thank you all and have a great meal. Well enjoyed. Thank you.